Hello, I'm Citrus, and thanks to Artex, you're looking at the 30 color gray acrylic marker set, and also the 30 color metallic acrylic marker set. As I've been told, these are new products that they're launching this year, and since I'm a Gundam reviewer who almost exclusively paints with markers, they asked me if I would like to try these out and show them to you guys. And to basically get us started, I have prepared this piece of cardboard. It is matte on this side, and it is slightly glossy on the other side, so we can see the color reproduction relative to the palette that they give. And also I have a black takeout container that we can use to test how the coverage is, how the streaking might look, especially when going over a challenging base like gloss black. And I've also prepared next to me a stack of model kits with which we can test the color match. The color match is especially important for the gray set, since, at least in my mind, one of the biggest uses for this will be to fill in like frame detail on your parts. And you'd want them to ideally match the predominant inner frame color for the kit, right? So that you don't have any like weird looking discrepancies. So we're gonna give that a try. But first, yeah, Artex, if you guys aren't familiar, they are a Chinese company. You can see here the base in Shenzhen. They've been around for a while. Apparently, the quality of their supplies are generally well regarded, but they do have a couple of issues that, well, we will see the effects of soon. So let's start with the color accuracy test first. So when you open the box, it's like this. They come shipped like this with the tips down, which makes a lot of sense because these are brush tip pens. You can see there, the tip is soft as opposed to like Gundam markers and their ilk, which usually have hard tips. And since this is a brush tip, like basically the ink is kind of always flowing through it all the time. You don't have to start them like you would have to with a Gundam marker. That's actually like one of the biggest pet peeves that I personally encounter, and I think a lot of other people do, is that if you constantly are using your Gundam markers, like say like at least maybe once every couple of weeks or so, you're not going to have a problem because the ink never like fully drains out of the tip or it never fully dries up. So you're always able to get color flowing through it. But the problem is if you have a color that you only use maybe once or twice, you don't use it very often, then when you try to go and restart the marker, it is a very time-consuming process. So you have to like shake the marker a lot to make sure the paint's fully agitated, and then pump it a bunch of times until it starts flowing correctly. And usually in that process, you do end up wasting a somewhat considerable amount of ink, at least in my opinion. So having a marker like a brush tip like this that you don't have to start and restart is really convenient from a use perspective, but also you would ideally be able to get much more mileage out of it because you're not having to throw ink away. All right, so one of the issues that I have heard is the ink that comes out won't always quite match either the cap or the label. These are little stickers, so I guess if you have your own marker storage solution, you don't want to use the tray that they come in, you can use these labels to identify where the marker is supposed to go. So that's kind of nice. Aside from that, I see here's a card. What is this? ArtX. And there's a thank you. We love see you sharing our products using our hashtag. Okay, so just some social media stuff and customer service. All right, so let's set this aside. Yeah, so even though this is called the gray set, there are definitely a lot of colors in here that I wouldn't really call gray. Like that's very obviously a blue. That's a lavender-y purple. That's a green, that's another green. But there are quite a lot of kits that have slightly strange colors. And when you go and buy Gundam markers, there will be themed sets that are based on a particular series or a particular theme. And that usually will get you pretty good coverage, but there's always going to be just some kit that you run into where there won't be a color match for exactly what you need. So the fact that this is a really, really like fine spread, really nice. All right, so let's try a color. Let's start with this one. So this is 646. And I'll try to put the nib up to the camera so you can see just how soft the tip is. So you kind of see how that bends, right? And if we look at the color here, and maybe because this is paper, it's absorbing it a little bit more. So right there, the coverage does not look extremely solid. Try going in the other direction as well. So then that way we can see if there's like a layering effect going on. Yeah, you can definitely see that there's one side of it that is darker than the other side. But again, this could just be because we're on paper. So turn it over to the other side, on the slightly glossy side. Yeah, similar effects. The effect seems to go away a little bit, so maybe you'll need I don't know, a couple of coats in order to get good coverage, but we'll really find out when we try this on the black plastic container. Alright, so for the coverage test, representing the metallics, we're going to have J48 and J60, representing the two most frequently used metallic colors that you'll probably need. And then for the gray acrylic marker set, we're going to have 696 and 683, representing the two most frequently encountered shades of gray. And the good thing about this container is there's a matte part and there's a glossy curved part, and then there's also like a smooth glossy surface, so we get to kind of test a little bit of everything. And I guess I'll do swatches of like 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers for each of the colors and just see how it goes. Okay, so the coverage test. I am pretty impressed. So the square on the left is just 1 layer, and the square on the right is 2 layers in perpendicular directions. So you can see that if you just do the 1 layer, you can probably see the brush strokes a little bit, but once you do like a perpendicular coat, they seem to disappear pretty well. And I like that on this black plastic anyway, the metallic color expression is so much brighter. You can see here as I'm moving, you kind of see it shine a little bit, which is pretty nice. And here on the curved glossy section, not too bad. Not too bad. Now, down here on the smooth glossy section, I think is where the color struggles a bit. You can see, especially in the green, the color kind of starts like running away from itself because there's nothing to really grab onto, and that's totally reasonable. But especially for the lighter gray, like that is really nice, dense coverage. I certainly wouldn't expect this out of like a Gundam Marker or anything. I feel like it'd probably start running immediately, but this looks really good. Now, most of the Gunpla parts that you're going to be like painting over, if you don't prime them or anything, it's not going to be completely glossy, right? There'll be a little bit of texture to it. So that I think will help the adhesion a lot already. But yeah, especially on the matte, like that looks pretty good with 2 coats. I think 3 is probably not even necessary, which is why I didn't go that far. So yeah, really impressed. And next up, some actual demonstration on model kits. So this one is my old high-grade Exia, and this is the sword from the Repair 2, which uses a slightly older shade of clear green that's more yellow than the shade that's basically used in everything now, which is like a more bluish green. And I used this J4 color on this piece of runner there, just under the 10, because it's a nice flat surface. Now, if I hold it right up to the light, you can kind of see through it still. So, you know, it's not like completely opaque. But when you're looking at it through the top, it doesn't look too bad. And the color match to the green is, I would say, pretty nice. So the green that I used on my actual Exia was just the Gundam Marker metallic green. And you can see this one is a little bit more blue. And I think if I had the opportunity to maybe do this kit over again, I would definitely use this color. This would make the match to the green look so much better. Like, these are, as it is now, it's two completely different colors, right? So it doesn't look the best. But yeah. You can see at the time, like, even for, like, for color match, I even painted the head jewel in the same metallic green. Because I believe the actual stickers, if I can find them in here for a second, the stickers in here were like the very, very dark green, almost black color, which made no sense to me. So I did that to be, I don't know, just something a little bit more visible and vibrant. Not that I'm unhappy with, you know, my work from almost 10 years ago, but yeah, this looks really good. I'm pretty happy with this. And next we'll try the color match on the gray. Okay, so it comes out and it looks brown, but if we just let it dry. Anyway, so this section right here that we just painted, this was 692. And, interesting. So even though it is very, like, brown when it's wet, when it dries, it is almost the same color as the plastic. You can tell that the sheen is very slightly different, but it's almost invisible. Okay, that's pretty nice. Next up is my Rizel. I built this one quite a few years ago as well. And it's interesting thing about, I guess, a lot of unicorn kits is that you have to paint white over a relatively dark color. You have to do it on pretty much all of the sleeve suits, and here, of course, you have to paint like the little white vents on the skirts there, and also white back here. And let's see, I guess I painted silver on the tubes on the legs and they're rubbing off pretty badly, so I'll probably have to go back and fix that eventually, but let's see if we can match this color. Now, as you can see on this runner, it's not actually like a bright, bright white. Compared to this white runner from my Exia again, you can see there's a slightly bluish tinge to the Rizel's white. So that should, in my mind, work in the marker's favor. The initial coverage is a little disappointing compared to the grays that we were just testing. This is not nearly as solid as I would have thought this would be. And over here, let's try 673. I see, that's so much better. What the heck? That'll definitely need 2 coats as well, but you know, with any kind of white color, I think that is pretty much the expectation, right? That you won't get it perfect the first time. All right, so let's give that a few minutes. All right, so I went back and did 2 coats on the 2 different colors. So on the right is 671, and on the left is 673. So first of all, 671 just never really, I think that's probably like a 3, 4, 5 coat job maybe to get it to start looking solid. But 673 after 2 coats actually looks pretty nice. And if I pick up the white runner to compare, yeah, I would say that is pretty dang close. Maybe very slightly darker. So perhaps a 3rd coat would really just brighten that up perfectly. Yeah. So the inconsistency in the colors is, like, in terms of like how well they can cover and everything, is not great, but it is pretty neat that at least in this one set you get a bunch of colors to be able to experiment with. All right, so I hope that demonstration was enough to give you an idea of what these Art X acrylic markers are like. The brush tip is really nice. I like how soft it is, and it does give you a lot of control to be able to make nice clean lines if you're freehanding, but of course you can always mask to get the most precise details. The problems. So the consistency and coverage and flow between the different colors I think is a little bit annoying. Some of the colors cover really well, others just don't. You just have to experiment with the colors to find exactly what is correct for your application pretty much every single time. The quality is a little bit all over the place, but I am impressed with enough specific colors that I think for my regular use, they will be probably replacing the Gundam markers, specifically like 692 for the grays, and either I think it was like J4 or J33 for the metallic greens. And one thing that does help is that these markers are pretty affordable. Both sets retail for $30. So one marker is $1. That is very affordable. If you are on Amazon, you get the free shipping. Like, that helps things a lot as well. ArtX themselves also sells individual markers for $1.50, I believe. That is not how I would start, however. I would definitely buy a set, experiment with all of them, find the exact colors that work for you out of the set, use those until you use them up, and then maybe buy single replacements as you go. Can't comment on how long these markers last, like what the ink capacity inside of the pen actually is, because as you know, my detailing style does not use a ton of paint. So like I have markers that are probably 10 years old that I'm still using now. So yeah, I'll definitely be keeping these colors around. I'll have links in the description and the pinned comment to both of these on Amazon. If you buy them through those links, I will get a small commission, which will be super appreciated. And I hope I'm not coming across as, glazing these markers too much. I'm trying to portray them as balanced and fairly as I can. They do a good job. There is inconsistency, but it is relatively affordable and you get a huge selection to pick from for your individual projects. So that's all for this review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.